the next contest starts May 20th.
Yes, so the Young Writers Contest, will open up again around May 20th, and I think the deadline is in mid-September, and so it's also a great summer activity, if that's where you could spend some time doing some writing and getting it in. So we publish all the dates, on our website and in our emails. You can sign up for our email and get all the dates, and so that your child or you can participate next year.
Right, and also we should mention too the short story contest.
Yes.
That happens. Gee, I should know by now. Yeah,
it's it's open for submissions right now, I believe, and I think we take submissions through February, and then it gets published in our newsletter, which is sent out to 12,000 people in Santa Cruz, and so we publish the winning entry in our newsletter, and we also come on your show and get to read the winning entries for the adult contest as well.
We've had some really exciting.
Yes.
These are great. This is such a wonderful idea. Great. So here we are. Now we are in the honorable mention category from ages 10 to 13, and that must be you, Jasper?
Yep.
You're Jasper? Why don't you lift the microphone up a little bit so you can talk into it?
Yeah.
There you go. Jasper Barnes, right? And you wrote a story called Steve the Pterosaur.
Steve the Pterosaur.
Good.
So I'm not going to read the whole thing because of that.
I'll stop you anyway. So don't worry about it. You just go ahead and read it, and I'll stop you.
Okay. So I have some stuff planned up. So a long, long time ago, 75 million years to be exact, there lived a young pterosaur by the name of Steve. He was one of the types of pterosaurs called pteranodon, meaning winged and toothless. Despite their name's dinosaurian feel, as well as their position in time, Steve's kind weren't dinosaurs, but close relatives. Steve had a long crest spouting from the back of his head and a long, slender beak with no teeth. His kind also had a fur-like covering on their bodies and huge wings that could be more than 20 feet across. Steve's wingspan was about 15 feet, more typical for his species. Their crests were brightly colored, at least in males. Females had a small, dull nub on the back of their heads. Pterosaurs were actually quite precocious, so Steve had left his nest at a young age and struck out on his own. He was quite adept at fishing, as the main food source of Pteranodon was fish. Steve was about 16 in pterosaur years, so he was just at the age when he could learn to fly. But that's enough descriptions of Steve and his kind. Let's get to the main story. Steve woke up one day on his nest, which was in a small cave about 30 feet off the ground. The cave was about midway down a cliff face, and it had a path leading from the back to the ground. It had probably once belonged to the digging plant-eater, Oryctodromeus, a speedy, two-legged dinosaur. Steve had a large panoramic view of the landscape around him, a forested area near to the coast of the ocean over what is now South Dakota. Usually, Pteranodon lived nearer to the ocean, but Steve had found that near large colonies of his kind, food was harder to find, and that there were many food opportunities further inland. Steve stretched out his wings and yawned. He made a decision after a quick meal of a few scattered bugs, worms, and scraps of dinner. Today would be the day he learned to fly. Now I'm going to skip forward in the story a bit.
Okay.
So Steve was about to try flight again when he felt himself being watched. He whirled around and saw a terrible sight. A large, by Pteranodon standards, dinosaur covered in brownish-gray feathers stared at him. The dinosaur was obviously a predator because it had lethally sharp claws on its hands and feet, with one extra sharp toe raised on each hind limb. This was a dinosaur that, if he could form complex thoughts, Steve would have known as simply the Claw. He was one of a species of dinosaur that was a close cousin of Velociraptor called Sauronitholestes. The two dinosaur species were almost exactly alike, with lengths of 6 feet and raised sickle claws on their feet for slashing, except Sauronitholestes had a larger snout and lived in prehistoric North America rather than Asia. The Claw snarled and charged Steve. He leapt off of his cliff and flapped frantically. If he had humanoid intelligence, he'd have thought, if I could just make it to the trees, I could survive. It was a desperate plan, but the only option for survival. The alternative location was the Claw's stomach. Finally, Steve was within 10 feet of the tree grove, then 5. His wings were exhausted, and the large Sauronitholestes was gaining on him. The jaws of death were slowly getting closer and closer, and his wing muscles felt like fire. Finally, the Claw was about to bite down on the wing of the seemingly doomed pterodactyl when a miracle occurred.
And you're not going to tell us what the miracle.
But if there's some extra time and you have any questions for me or the story,
they can go down. They can go down and buy the book. because your work will be in it. Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much. That's wonderful. Have you done a lot of other writing?
A couple years back, I wrote a story called Nigel and the Time Machine. It was about this kid named Nigel, of course, and he finds a time machine, goes back in time, finds.
So anyway, there's a lot. You've done other writing.
Yes.
You're going to keep writing?
Yes, I have
Good.
plans to enter the next contest.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.